You hired a photographer for your event, but did you know the food on the table might need its own photographer too? Menu photography is a whole separate world, and figuring out who pays for it can feel like defusing a bomb with oven mitts. Here's the thing about food photography at special events: it's not just someone snapping a pic of a shrimp cocktail. A professional food photographer brings lighting equipment, styling props, and sometimes an entire crew just to make a mini crab cake look like it belongs on the cover of a magazine. When a caterer or vendor prices a special event package, menu photography is often baked into the cost without anyone saying it out loud. You might be paying for it right now and not even know, buried somewhere between the linen fees and the cake cutting charge. Vendors use something called usage rights to decide how much a photo is actually worth. A picture of your wedding appetizer shown only to your Aunt Linda is priced very differently than that same picture used in a national ad campaign for the catering company. Think of usage rights like a streaming subscription. You're not buying the movie, you're buying permission to watch it under certain conditions. If the vendor wants to post your beautifully plated salmon on their Instagram forever, that's a different license than keeping it in a private portfolio folder. Credits work the same way, and this is where it gets sneaky. A photographer might offer to shoot your event menu at a reduced rate in exchange for a credit line, meaning their name appears wherever the photo is used, which sounds fair until you realize they're basically getting free advertising every time someone sees your fancy cheese board. Negotiation enters the chat when the caterer, the event planner, and the venue all think someone else is handling the photography budget. This is shockingly common, and it's the kind of miscommunication that leads to a very photogenic pasta dish being completely undocumented. The person who pays is usually whoever benefits most from the final image, which sounds logical until 3 vendors all claim the photos are for the other guy. A good contract spells out ownership, usage, credit requirements, and who writes the check before anyone shows up with a soft box. Fair pricing for event menu photography ranges wildly depending on the market, the photographer's experience, and how many dishes need to be shot. A single dish lifestyle shot in a major city can cost anywhere from $250 to over $2,000, and that's before any licensing fees get layered on top. Some vendors offer what's called a day rate, where you pay for the photographer's full day on site regardless of how many shots get taken. That model works well for large events where the menu has dozens of items, but for a small wedding with 5 past appetizers, you're probably better off negotiating a per image or per hour rate. The caterer often wants the images for their portfolio, the venue wants them for their website, and the event planner wants them for their social media, and everyone assumes someone else already negotiated for that, right? When nobody did, you end up in a licensing dispute over a photo of a bruschetta, which is objectively one of the most chaotic outcomes in event planning history. One underrated move is asking the photographer upfront for a split usage agreement. Where multiple vendors share the rights and split the cost, it's genuinely one of the fairest solutions in the whole industry, and somehow it's still treated like a radical idea at most planning meetings. The vendor who commissions the shoot typically holds the master license and can grant sublicense to other parties involved. Knowing that puts you in a surprisingly powerful negotiating position if you're the one writing the original contract. Here's the honest takeaway. Menu photography pricing is part art, part law, and part whoever talks first wins negotiation. Being the person in the room who understands credits, usage, and licensing isn't just smart, it's the difference between owning your event's visual story and accidentally handing it to someone else. If any of this made you realize there's a lot more to know about working with event vendors, check out our links in the description to learn more about what we do.